during your conversation, you did mention parole. Does that mean you've been to prison?
I finished. I've been in prison. Yeah, I served over 20 years in prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do exactly?
Robbery. And I seen that and I broke down and cried for maybe 3 days. The hardest tears I ever had. Because I couldn't believe, that you would be forced to choose which way you wanted to die in a split second. And I was like, God, please help me out this lifestyle. Because I can't help myself. I really can't help myself. Police officers are abusing their authority. And I tell you one thing, this is what reminds me of slavery so much, is that police officers have replaced slave masters. Police have become very narcissistic, very self-absorbed, and very, what's a good word used for them? Abusive of authority. So, if I challenge you and I'm right, then your ego is in the way. And you're not gonna let me mess with your ego. The black officers is probably the worst one because they battle with discrimination in the department. And what they do, they take that reverse discrimination against them and inflict it on us. I'd say the cancer survivor, it was influential because I thought I was going to die.
How important is sex to you in your relationship?
Sex is very important in a relationship to me. I would end a relationship over that. But out of relationship, I've learned to be like, I'm a boxer, man, so I could, I'm good with masturbation, to be honest with you.
How
often?
How often?
If it's good, every day.
How do you please your woman?
Any way she wants.
So she tells you what she wants?
No. I do that. Because it's my job to figure out her body. It's my job to figure out where her spot's at. I don't want her directing me. Like, I'm not a student. I'm a master at this.
You're a master, okay.
I'm a professor.
What's the craziest thing you've done?
Sexually?
Yes.
Threesome, probably.
Okay.
How you doing? My name is Greg Russell, a.k.a. Stack Stone. I was a former Blood member. I'm currently now a social worker, and I work with people that need services, provide things for them that have barriers to employment. I help people that come home from prison get jobs. I'm also involved. I'm a partner in a company called Am I. I manage an artist by the name of El Javon. He's a writer. So I'm into digital art, digital media, marketing, branding, social work, community activists. I'm into motivating people to bring awareness to others. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm just a person that loves to be involved with this community and help people.
In a world full of highs and lows, people go through lots of struggles. Some good days and some bad days. Some laughter and some sadness. Everyone deserves the chance to share their story in its purest and most authentic form. I travel the world to meet ordinary people and hear them speak their truths. Remember, we listen and we don't judge. These are their stories.
How's your day been so far?
Today, you know what? Truthfully, I got fired today.
Fired?
Yeah,
From
my
where?
job. From my job that I work at as a social worker.
Oh, wow.
Because the funding ran out, actually. It was under contract. So it wasn't doing too good. And I work in the social service sector. So I work mostly under contract. So if the program doesn't do too good and succeed, they let you go because there's not any grant money to pay you.
Right.
So that's the kind of unfortunate thing about the kind of work I do because of my life. So I reversed it and try to help people. So that's where I'm at in the social services sector of employment.
But How long have you been working there?
Only 6 months because
Okay.
I recovered from cancer,
Oh, wow.
so I was just getting back in the workforce. So
That's crazy. So, did you know that you were going to get fired today?
no, I didn't know I was gonna get fired today. Actually, when you told me, Greg, I need you to come do the interview, I was like, you know what? After I get off work, I'll come straight over there. I got an email today telling me to come to HR. I had a slight indication because I was like, why am I going to HR? So it kind of reminded me of waiting for a parole board.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was waiting out there in the lobby and waiting for them to come see me. And I came. They was like, Greg, unfortunately, we got to let you go because the grant, they didn't renew the grant. So
Wow. So, but you still seem to be in good spirit. You're smiling.
yeah, because I got an opportunity to go get another job. I'm not in nobody's cell.
That's what's up.
I have skills, so I got my degree, so I'm good.
So let's talk about your upbringing. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in a place called Lutheran Hospital in Brooklyn, which is no longer standing. They broke it down. I was raised in Brownsville, Red Hook, Flatbush, East New York, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy. Those primary sections kind of shaped my mental, shaped me as an individual.
So during your conversation, you did mention parole. Does that mean you've been to
Yeah,
prison?
I finished. I've been in prison. Yeah, I served over 20 years in prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. How did you end up in prison?
Basically, because I adapted, like what I would call today it was a pseudo persona.
Okay.
In order for me to survive in the streets, in the neighborhoods where I grew up, you have to adapt to your environment. So you have to become tough, even when you're not tough. Like I wasn't tough, but I adapted to toughness just to survive. I was a theatrical person. My mother had me in theater when I was growing up, sort of like Tupac.
Mm.
But I adapted a pseudo persona, and I was good at it. It's like acting. So and that's what most of the kids do today. I don't think a lot of them are killers, but I just adapted this pseudo persona like a killer, gangster, thug, hard rock, whatever reference you want to use. So that's what it was.
So at what age and what exactly happened for you to be put in prison for over 20 years?
Well, the first time I was looking like around 13, 14 years old, I was searching for myself. My mother had got married to a man that wasn't my biological father, which I recognize as my biological father, but we were going through differences in the household. So I was kind of looking for myself at that point at 13, 14. So I was doing a lot of delinquent things, running in and out the streets, doing delinquent stuff, So I ended up doing something with a friend of mine, a younger childhood friend, and I ended up catching a robbery case in Jersey just on a whim, going out there, sort of like nomad, wherever the day takes you, you just go. And I had that type of mentality. I didn't want to conform to anything with structure in it. I know I was at that young age, I just wanted to be free. And I ended up catching a robbery at 14, and they sent me away for 2.5 years, and I didn't come home till I was 17. So from 17, I kept recidivating because I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any confidence in myself. So I adapted to whatever was around my environment. So drugs were just coming into fruition. Crack era was just coming out. Although I was good athletically and intellectually, academically, I didn't have confidence, and I didn't have anybody to show me the direction how to execute or how to nurture or how to invest in myself and put worth in myself and practice at the sport, practice at boxing. I just was, crack came out and I was just instant. I want the instant success. I want the cars, the jewelry, everything that came with it, the girls. So I didn't know how to work hard for something, and most of people can't see past like a week or something. I didn't know how to see into the future.
So after 2 years, you got out.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you go back in for 20 years?
After 2 years, I was doing good. I was 17. I was in high school. I was a junior, and then I became a senior. I was a athlete, so everything was good. I was playing ball, boxing. I was, girls were there in abundance. I enjoyed that, but then the crack era came, and right in the midst of that, I started seeing, this crack. I guess I would say the benefits of selling drugs was right in your face. The girls, the jewelry, the cars, that was more enticing than anything I could imagine at that moment. So I couldn't see past my block. Everybody was having these new cars. I was like in big gold chains. So that enticed me and kind of persuaded me.
So what were you charged for? What did you do exactly?
Robbery. But then the second offense came, it was another robbery. I impersonated a police officer. So when I got older, going back and forth, the first time I did 5-year bid, it was a robbery. Then the second time, another robbery. I got 10 years for that. Ended up catching a new sentence in jail. So I ended up catching a new 3-year bid. So I ended up doing 13 years over a 10-year sentence.
Wow. That's crazy. So did you get any kind of reduced sentence
No.
or did you serve all your time?
I served all my time. Yeah, I served all my time.
So any sort of remorse from all the time that you spent, especially your young adult life back in prison? Now you've been out for how long?
Going on 11 years. I came home in 2006, January 20th.
So how has it been like coming out and any type of remorse or anything?
Remorse for doing the bid?
Right.
No, I have remorse about, it's strange because I think that without the prison, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be this driven. So I wouldn't say remorse. Now, remorse of if I may have inflicted any pain on anybody, remorse for that, yes. But I didn't have any violent crimes. I just had robbery. They consider robberies violent, but nobody got hurt in my case because I would just impersonate police officers.
Were you having a gun?
Yeah, I had guns, but no, I still didn't have to use it on anybody. But remorseful, I wouldn't say remorseful about doing the time because I gained wisdom. I gained wisdom under the most extreme conditions. So, and I gained a lot of ethics and moral compass that I use today was from prison.
What do you mean you gained wisdom? You were in prison. Can you help us understand, what it means being in prison and why and how did you come out and saying you've gained wisdom? That's like a torture.
Well, this is a misconception. The misconception is that what society thinks is that when you go to prison, automatically you're reformed. And they use the word loosely rehabilitation, when rehabilitation is to rehab something. So if you don't get into yourself and examine yourself, you're not going to be considered to be rehabilitated because you didn't do the internal stuff that's necessary for growth. Like you stayed in the same state of mind, meaning that the same way that you thought when you were 20, we're going to be the same way you think when you're 35. That's a stagnant person. That means you didn't grow and develop as an individual. Now, me, fortunately and unfortunately, the way I had to grow was God sat me down and removed me from out of the gang culture because I was inside of Rikers Island being part of a blood gang. So that was detrimental to me. I was around me, my spirit. So when he put me in solitary for 4 years, that is where I gained the wisdom. So I was in lockdown for 24 hours a day. And I say 24 hours a day because I really couldn't go anywhere because New York State prisons make the cells open up your back cell. It'll open up for your rec pen. So you really could walk 1 foot and you could be in a rec pen. And the rec pen is maybe 7 by 9 square feet where you could just walk in a little, it's like a dog kennel. So that kind of made me primitive, and then it kind of made me into I would say a quiet, settled mind. So I really couldn't deal with any noise when I came home, like anything confusing or any relationship that remind me of anything confusion, I would kind of turn away from it.
So for 4 good years, while you were in prison, for 4 good years, you were in confinement.
Yeah, solitary.
Solitary confinement because you involved yourself in a gang while in prison.
Yes.
How did you get into the gang?
Well, when I first went to Rikers Island was in '93. And at that time, there was a lot of racial tension going on between Spanish, Latins, and blacks. And it was oppression, actually. So if you came into a housing location and they were majority run by Spanish people, at the time, the majority or the most popular gang, the strongest gang was the Latin Kings at that time. So they were really oppressing black people. So you would have to come into the housing location and they would tell you, don't touch the phone, you can't look at the TV. So based on that, a blood gang had started and I became part of that. And it was just a lot of violence going on in Rikers Island at that time.
So, like, I'm still a little confused how that formation of the gang came about.
Okay, well, this one guy is. Well, I can tell you his street name is a guy by the name of OG Mac. He had ties to LA, and he also lived in the Bronx. So on occasion, he would travel to summers going to Los Angeles, and he would come back with this blood literature, and he would give it to people in New York. And so that's where the Bloods formed. And he'd give us this literature, and we bought into it. Like, we got to stand for something. We're being oppressed. We got to strike back with violence. It was that type of mantra that he instilled in me. And I at first I had odds about joining the blood gang because I didn't want to be responsible for nobody because I could basically hold myself down. But at a certain point, I needed to because I was doing a lot of bad things to people. So I knew it was going to eventually come back to haunt me.
So what do you mean you were doing bad things to people?
Slashings, cuttings, all the stuff you hear about Rikers Island, the infamous Rikers Island. I was a part of the culture that started certain things. Like, because of the violence was going on, they started making us put on mittens, which were sort of like to say, stop cutting people because we put your hands in mittens when you come out your cell. They just started doing a lot of things security-wise to make it primitive, putting cages on buses that transfer you back and forth to court. I had to learn how to do a lot of things that I didn't think I would learn how to do, as far as come out of your handcuffs and, take a handcuff key and uncuff yourself in the pins just so you won't get cut in your face. So I had a phobia of getting cut in my face because I cut a lot of people in the face. So I didn't want to get cut in the face, and I thought that it would come back to me, but it did come back to me. I ended up getting stabbed in my lungs twice, collapsed lungs. So I was in prison. And it was a violent situation.
So why were you like going around slashing people and stabbing people?
It was a war going on in Rikers Island. It was a real war as far as I wouldn't say blacks and Spanish was concerned because there were a lot of Spanish blood. So it became kings against bloods because there was a lot of Spanish bloods. So it wasn't really a racial war. It was a gang war. But that's what I was involved in.
So what does it mean when, for those who've never really been to prison, what does it mean to say that you've been to prison? Like, what is the normal day-to-day activities that goes on in prison?
Prison is primitive. It could cause you to come out with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's sort of like going to the military or something, going to war. So that's why we suffer from the same type of symptoms when we come home. And it's parallel to the military because it makes you tense. When you come into prison, the atmosphere, you're going to smell the tension as soon as you get there. You're going to smell certain aromas that it's going to smell like maybe a hospital or something like that. And then you're going to have to condition yourself, how am I going to survive this? First, you have to deal with knowing the fact that you're going to be away for a period of time. And then you have to deal with the fact that it's primitive. It's like gladiator school. So you're amongst the most sadistic, criminal thinking, violent thinking individuals in New York. So you got some people that's never going to come home. I know some people that got 250 years. They're never going to see daylight. So could imagine being in that setting where people just don't care. Hopelessness, a sense of hopelessness. So that's one thing that I thank God for, that I'm able to come home and without any death. So one of my biggest fears was like not making it out because I have people that didn't make it out. For instance, the person that was with me was a brother by the name of Larry Davis. And he was infamous for this cop shooting in the Bronx. He never made it home. He got killed in jail by a knife. So those were one of my biggest fears.
Wow. So how has that transformed you? Being that now you've been out of prison for 11 years. What kind of impact has that, what kind of impact
has it had on me too?
Yeah, has it had on you to be who you are today?
Well, the prison, had I not found my Savior or had I not found Christ, I would probably still be in that same way of thinking. But here's the thing. That made me so motivated like I've never been before. It made me a driven person, a driven individual, because being in solitary confinement is similar to being buried alive. I felt at times like people were throwing dirt on the casket and all I could move was my digits. So just being in solitary for that many years, it made me feel like I was born again. So if I ever got the opportunity, I was going to attack it with vigor. Like I was going to, it made me feel like the world was my oyster. Go out and get what God had intended for you. So what the box did, it made me adapt an unbelievable amount of patience like I never had before. So I can actually wait now because I waited in the box for so long. So waiting out here for something to occur for me is nothing as long as I'm working, because faith without works is dead. So I went to school, got my degree without a problem in 4 years straight. While that, I was working 2 jobs. I worked for the district attorney's office. So that was remarkable in itself. For me to get a job working for the district attorney's office in Brooklyn, that was the same office that sentenced me to the 10 years.
Wow. So
for me to come home and work for them and helping people, because they had a reentry program which helps individuals that are being released from prison, I would have to help them find jobs, secure employment, help them, assist them with housing, substance abuse, whatever kind of services or barriers to employment that they had, I would assist them with. And it worked for me because I knew the blueprint. I lived it. So I could actually give you the information you need to sustain sustain your freedom, not recidivate, and actually add worth to yourself. So all it takes is patience.
So I want to go back to the 4 years of your confinement. Being in there, I can imagine it's dark.
Yeah.
Can you explain, help me envision what actually was going on?
Okay, let me tell you. Okay, when I got sentenced to the 4 years, I was like maybe 4 or 5 years into my bid, or my sentence, what they call it, a bid. So when I got sentenced to the time in solitary, the day of 9/11, man, which was ironic, the day of 9/11, I was waking up and they was calling me, Russell, pack it up. You're being transferred to another facility, which means I was going from Elmira to go to another housing facility, which is a SHU, a specialized housing unit. And I was going to Southport, which is a housing unit that's a box. So on that day, around 8 something in the morning, I heard somebody yell out from the adjacent cell saying, "Oh shit, so a plane just flew into the World Trade Center." I couldn't believe it because I couldn't fathom that. And then maybe 15 minutes later, he said, "Oh shit, another one flew into the other World Trade Center." Now, mind you, so people in jail doesn't have a visual of what's going on out there. So we kind of blinded to the world. So on that day, I couldn't believe it. It was numb outside. Ended up going to another facility. That weekend I got a visit. And somebody bought me a visitor bought a Time magazine. So I started seeing all the magazine pictures of people jumping out of windows. The World Trade, and just burning. Some people just got burnt by the fuselage or the temperature, because it was supernova, 3,000 degrees, you was going to get incinerated. So people jumped. And I seen that, and I broke down and cried for maybe 3 days. The hardest tears I ever had. Because I couldn't believe, that you would be forced to choose which way you wanted to die in a split second. Like, you would never think that on your way to work that a plane would fly into the building. So that kind of devastated me, seeing all that carnage like that. People were getting severed. So I couldn't believe it. So that night, I was in the box and I reached out and I got on my knees. And I was like, God, I was like, please help me out this lifestyle. Because I can't help myself. I really can't help myself. I was so entrenched to it. I wanted to get out, but I just didn't know how. And it wasn't that I was out of fear. It was that I didn't know what else to do with myself. I thought being blood was everything to me, because I bled for it, almost died for it, and I stood up for it. But that was nothing. It was bogus. Go ahead. So basically, that's what I went through in there. And That's one big. That's one of the things I regret is becoming a blood member because it was too much detriment. I wasn't getting anything nurturing out of it. So
how did you find Christ? You mentioned that within those 4 years and 9/11 happening, you found Christ. What do you mean by that?
Well, Christ found me. Basically, tell you the truth, I was battling with spirituality for a long time, but I just didn't know at what point, because I was telling God, if you ever have bouts with God and you might tell him I'll change, but God knows the heart. Like you utter that off your tongue, but he know you're lying. He know you just trying to get a deal out of the situation you in. So like say if you was in court and you was facing a lot of time, you be in the bullpens on your knees telling God, please give me another chance, I'll never do it again. And as soon as he give you another chance, he know you're going to do it again, but he allowed that to happen. So in this instance, it came in the form of the 4 year solitary. So when the solitary happened, I was forced to confront myself every day. I couldn't run for myself. It was just me, myself, I, and God. And then I think what really got me closer to God, because not eating, so the fast was making me hear God more. Like depriving myself from food because I couldn't eat the food in there. And then working out and reading the Bible, it's like I became like a monk, and I was high. It was a high I never experienced, without any drugs, any cigarettes, any alcohol. It was like my endorphins was on a different level, and then I became like, it was a high. Like I couldn't even explain the high, and that's why I understood how monks could walk on hot coal and stuff like that. Because if you have no poisonous things going in your body, and you fasting and you praying, you're going to hear God like that. It's going to be like a direct phone line to him. So that's what happened, and that helped transform me.
Okay, so apparently you had access to the Bible.
Yes, I have my Bible,
but not any other religion of any influence or whatsoever. For you to say you found Christ, it could have been that you found Islam or
No, but I was a Muslim at one time. On my first earlier bit, that was in Jersey though. And the only reason I became Muslim because I was locked up in Jersey. I was a young kid from Brooklyn. Everybody over there was Muslim or 5%er. And I ain't gonna lie, I was scared. I was a 14-year-old kid, and I was like the only kid from Brooklyn locked up in Jersey. So it was like you had to be something in there. It's sort of like, but when I got older, I chose blood, but it wasn't that type of decision. But when I became Muslim over there, I was a Muslim that was sneaking in the kitchen eating bacon. So that was to tell you that I wasn't feeling that the vibe. I couldn't connect to the no disrespect against Muslim, but I just didn't connect spiritually in that religion.
That's interesting. So while you had that moment of 9/11 happening, you realized that people had to make a choice within a split second.
Yes.
How they're gonna die.
Yes, that's what affected me.
But how did that impact upon you though?
It made me feel like, you know what? I'm still breathing. I got a second chance at life. I don't have that situation on me where I have to decide which way I want to die. I'm still living. So I have an opportunity, not only if I'm still living, but I have a date to come out of prison. And it's not too far around the corner. So that's what made me feel like there was some hope for me, and I came out of a state of hopelessness into a state of hope.
So after the four years, did you how many more years did you serve before you actually got out?
After the 4 years, so I came out in 2004. So I served 2 more years because I had a new sentence. I got a new bid. So I came out. I was supposed to come home in 2004. Ended up coming home in 2006.
Interesting. So all of that is behind you now.
Yes, way behind me.
How are you living your life now?
Right now, I'm living my life through Christ, and although the challenges don't stop, it seems like they multiply when you become in your spirituality or Christian, whatever religion you're a part of. But it taught me how to balance everything, so I have a sense of balance in my life now, Like literally, like I work for check to check. Like if I don't get a check, somebody's not getting paid. And I'm behind now because I'm taking care of my kids that I had since I've been home. So right now, this is the only time I ever felt like I could walk around the street with no money in my pocket and still have everything because I'm with God. So whatever God takes out of my hand and take away from me, I have everything because I have him. So that's what makes me feel rich. Like I don't feel broke or anything like that. I feel as long as I'm able and working and have a sane mind, my sanity and my health, I feel rich.
What's your perception of God?
My perception of God is just a higher power to connect to. Something I feel that it's just a higher power to connect to. Something to strive to be like. Try to be God-like. Something that gives you a focus and it centers you. So that's my perception of God. I don't like to really get into spiritual things because everybody have their own differences of what they feel God is. So whatever works for you. I don't knock anybody. I don't try to downplay any religions or anything like that. I just know what worked for me. And people used to always tell me, they used to say, yo, Stack, or they used to call me by my name, Stack. You did that. God didn't do that. And I try to tell them, listen, bro, I got on my knees and I asked God to help me because I was so weak to do it on my own. And they still insist on saying that I did it. And I don't feel that way because I couldn't have done it without being transformed by a spirit. And that's how I feel.
How do you pray to God?
Different forms. I might just close my eyes and bow my head. I might get on my knees. I might burn some frankincense. I might pray for 5 minutes. I might pray for an hour. It depends on how I'm feeling and where I'm at spiritually. That's what I do.
So now that you believe that God is taking you through all of that, how do you serve him?
I serve him by doing the things I'm supposed to do. Like I'm not a person that goes to church and becomes part of a congregation to serve him. I serve him through servitude through my line of work. I try to introduce people to Christ. I go in and out of prisons and facilities to talk to people that may need someone, that's on the outside, to give them a sense of hope and to give them certain information that they may need to sustain their freedom once they get out. I give back in a lot of forms. Volunteer work in my community. I've given back to numerous people coming home from prison, counseling them, case managing them, assisting them with getting jobs, putting them in the right direction, getting them in programs that are entrepreneurship programs that they can execute their skills and their desires and aspirations to be an entrepreneur.
How did you know that you needed to give back? Having been to prison, having gone through what you went through, why couldn't you focus on yourself, helping yourself? Why are you trying to help other people?
That was my passion, because I knew it had to be somebody out, because I wanted somebody to be there for me when I was going through that. So I knew that I needed to be that person to reach out to certain people that was coming home from prison that didn't have the blueprint. They had a bunch of ideas, because I tell you, when people come out of prison, I've been around some of the most brilliant people I ever wanted to meet. And I was like, how is this guy in prison with his mind? So there's some geniuses locked in jail. So I just knew when I came home that I was strong enough to be able to be broke without committing crime again. I was strong. The box got me so mentally strong. I wasn't willing to even jaywalk. It humbled me to a point where an orange would come through the feed up slot. I would get on my knees and thank God because of how the orange looked, the nutrients in it. It humbled me to that point. So I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to help people. So I just started adding worth to myself to be able to do it one day. But I didn't know it was going to come in that form until one day I fabricated a resume to do youth work, and I submitted it to an agency, and they called me back in 6 months. I totally forgot about it. And they asked me, we need to fill a position because somebody just abruptly resigned. Can you come tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And from that point on, I knew that job was for me, and it was as a youth counselor. So I stayed there 2 years. I ended up getting a job with just a GED. I ended up beating out a bunch of women that had degrees, master's degrees, and I had a GED. But what happened was God had that job for me. So on the interview, my personality persuaded them to hire me because they knew I was going to be the best fit for those individuals in that programming. So that program gave me my 2 years experience working in the office and working with youth. And I started learning office decorum. And I didn't know about office decorum as a person coming out of prison. So usually we have a shell of defensiveness and we don't know how to operate in the office because of, we haven't never worked in the office before. So with that, it gave me 2 years experience there. And that led me to go work in another agency at another reentry program. And then that led me to the DA's office. And in the DA's office, where I used to have clients come in and just out of prison, and I would give them the blueprint. And I love the job because a lot of people coming out of prison, they have anxiety. They come out with all the ideas, but they don't know how to execute the plan. So, and they have the anxiety, the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They're very defensive. And then they're going to go through a couple of phases. And I know every phase they're going to go through. And then people from prison don't deal with discouragement good. They don't deal with letdowns good. They feel like, they feel like pariahs. Like, the world is not going to let me in. So I might as well just go back to what I know. The grind, getting it on the streets. So
being in prison and being out now, what would you say in general that being in prison had taught you into building you to be the man that you are?
It definitely taught me discipline and patience. Like, prison can make you, especially the box. The box can turn you into two individuals. It can make you a totally patient individual, or it can turn you into a totally impatient individual. And the reason I say that is because if you are deprived from something, lack of deprivation leads to fixation. So if you deprive from something for so long and you get out, you could totally abuse the freedom. Or you could apply that patience that you stuck and you waited for so long, and you could apply it to this. You could take those same principles and come out here and wait for your opportunity. As long as you add in worth to yourself, you have to feel like something is going to happen, like a door is going to happen. And it's all how you feel about yourself. And what happens with a lot of African American and Latino males, we don't have the confidence. And so the more you practice at something, the confidence you become. So if I'm practicing that basketball and I'm getting confident and I'm getting the skill level, of course I'm going to be able to gamble on myself because I have confidence I could beat another person. The same thing with anything you try to apply yourself to. If I'm good at chess, if I'm a good chess player, am I good enough to gamble on myself? Yes, I probably feel that way. Boxing, am I good enough to gamble on myself? Yes, I feel good about myself. Am I a writer? Am I good enough to gamble on myself? Yes, you should feel that way. Even if I had one client, he came into my office and he was the only client that I ever had that I seen the eye of a tiger in. I seen so many other clients, they had the ideas, but they didn't have that eye of the tiger. So this one client, he kind of reminded me of myself, but he was a new advanced model. And
so when you say client, what do you mean? This was when you actually got out.
Yeah, this is when I worked for the district attorney's office. Okay. So my job was I worked for a reentry program for the district attorney's office called Calm Alert in Brooklyn. Started by Charles Hines. And what happens is individuals come out of prison, and during the first week, they have to see a parole officer. And then from the parole officer, they will recommend or refer them over to me for services. Now, the service that we provide in reentry program is all the services that a newly released person from incarceration is going to need. They're going to need housing. They're going to need assistance with getting ID. They're going to need assistance with checking a rap sheet. They want to know what's there. Some of them going to need assistance being reintegrated. They don't even know how to use a Metro card. They've been gone 30 years. They've been going out of the era of cell phones. So it's like you going back into the dinosaur stage. So they have to be reintegrated, reacclimated back into society, and that's my job. My job is to give them a sense of normalcy and to have somebody they can relate to. So I'm a peer counselor, you know?
So this peer that you started counseling, you felt that you saw yourself in him. How
Absolutely.
How so?
I was them. I used to be them. I would come out of prison and sit in these same chairs across from somebody who was supposed to help me, a case manager, a job developer, social worker, whatever. And I used to feel like neglect, like this person don't really care, carbon copy, just go through emotion, can't really connect to me, doesn't know what I'm feeling. So I didn't want to be that type of person. So the first thing I would do is relate to certain individuals. I wouldn't tell them I was formerly incarcerated at first until I feel I needed to, like an ace in the hole. If I was losing them, I might connect to them in that way and say, listen, I understand what you're going through. You know, then I would tell them my story and tell them how I overcome certain obstacles.
So now let's go back a little bit. How do you think this whole ordeal of 20 years of your life spent in prison affected you in any negative way?
Sorry, can I just fix, or can you just fix that?
This
What
one.
happened?
Just put that.
So what kind of negative impact do you think 20 years being gone for 20 years, what kind of negative impact do you think it had on you?
Maybe the relationship with my oldest child, with my oldest two daughters, because I was gone. My oldest child, I've been hard with parent because of, she blames me for being missing out of her life for that long.
How old is she now?
She's 27 now.
Oh.
So I left, one was 8 when I left and one was 18 months. So when I came home, they was older and they were adult. Now they're adults, So that's the only thing I would say, that the relationship between my one oldest daughter, that was the negative impact.
So the youth that started coming to your office that you were helping, with your experience, how do you think you've impacted on them?
Well, this one particular youth, his name is, he's a writer by the name of El Javon. So I'm going to tell you, this one guy came into my office and he had this look on his face that was eager, scared, and driven at the same time. But you could see the passion. So
You're talking about El Javon, the rapper, the writer.
yeah, El Javon, the writer. I want to say writer first.
Right.
You don't want to consider the rapper.
Right.
He's a writer. Don't say rapper.
Okay.
So
the writer that happens to have something to say.
yes,
Rapping.
he has a lot to say.
Right.
So I think I got a lot from him because he had this drive. He had a motor that I haven't seen in anybody that I know. And the motor was like, well, I seen it and I thought it was going to fade out, but it kept burning. And so when he came to me, he had like a folder, and it was like under his arm, and it was like he was clutching onto a treasure. So I was like, what you got there? And he said, this is all the stuff I was writing. I can remember his voice and everything. He was like, this is all the stuff I was writing when I was in jail. So I was like, well, let me check it out. So he gave me the manuscript to Season the Concrete. So I was like, let's see what this guy got. I wasn't thinking too much of it. So later on, I went home with it and I read it. The first couple of chapters, I was like, it reminded me of the authors I was reading when I was in the box. And I was like, this kid got something here. So immediately I was like, that the next day I called him up and I was like, who you stole this from? Because it was that good. I didn't think he had that skill without any formal writing, going to writing classes. And some people just naturally gifted at that. And I noticed that his kid might be gifted. So I asked him, where you get this from? He's like, I wrote it. I was like, you wrote this? And the reason I knew that it was special because I paid attention to the way he developed characters. Everybody can't do that. You have some people that can say they can write, but just can write a straight story. Just to tell you the straight story. This individual knew how to tap into characters and make you become part of the character. So that's why I knew I had something to him. So the next day he came back, he kind of burnt the fire in me that was kind of fading out. Because I was willing to accept my life as it was. Just being a social worker, just the mediocre stuff. I wasn't willing to go above and beyond until I met this cat, man. And when I met him, he like lit a fire in me, you know, and because he showed me so many things. You know, he's younger than me, but he's very intelligent, and he was doing a lot of things that I wanted to do. So I was like, this guy I might be on something with him. Like, I'll give him a lot of things he need, and we can have a good friendship because he's gonna be giving me some of the things I need. And I don't have a problem with learning from somebody younger. That's what made me so humble, because I'm studious. Like, I gotta learn from kids. If you're 10 years old, if you know something, and I see you know something, I'm gonna try to pick your brain and get it out you. So that's what we did, and we had a good friendship ever since. And then when I put him in the entrepreneurship program, I don't want to say the names of the program because I don't want to plug them like that, but I put him in the entrepreneurship program, and he ended up getting a prize. He ended up being competitive and coming in second or third. He ended up giving some grant money, and the next thing you know, he had an office on 7th Avenue in the Garment District. And I couldn't believe it at first, so I went to his office. I was like, how's he got an office like this? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like blown away. And then he was telling me, yo, the book is being edited. And then we started. And then immediately he said, listen, once you come be a part of the agency, you know, and we could just take it from there. And it's actually, he gave me the first idea. I like the story because it started with him. Actually, it started with me in the box first. Okay. And then when he went to the box, it was like the minds connected, because after my box time was over and I was home, he was doing his box time. So he needed to connect with me because I was experienced with the box time. I was experienced with freedom. So he needed to directly see me because he had so much content. He just needed guidance. So it was like a marriage. Like, it was like God. It was destined to happen.
So he pretty much wrote his stuff in the box.
He wrote everything in the box. Everything in the box. And that's what I was doing in the box. I was writing scripts. My mother used to send me these books on screenplays. I was writing everything because you have to condition yourself, because the box, you don't want to go there. It's a dark place, baby. Some people might not come out. You might hang it up, then you might cut it off. Thinking about being in the summertime, 110 degrees, you starving, and it's like, yo, am I gonna breathe in here? Like, it feels like you actually being buried alive. So how do you calm yourself in the midst of that? So that's why me and him connected. Like, solitary minds is what we came up with. Okay. That's the term, solitary minds, because the solitary quiets your mind, and you have to project to survive. You literally have to project. I used to really go into projection and thinking I was in some strawberry fields open, going to a cabbage patch in North Carolina, being in California in a winery. And that's what the books used to do to me. That's why the books were like crack or gold. If you got a book, you be like, this in the box, I got a good book. I got a Sister Soldier book. Or eventually, I want people to say, I got an El Javon book. Got Seasoned in Concrete, send it down. Send it on a fishing line. It's like a water well. So if I got an El Javon book, this hypothetically, in which I want everybody to feel like this, if they're doing solitary time, I want you to say, I got an El Javon book. It's going to take me out this cell for at least the duration it takes me to complete the book.
How much has your family influenced you growing up?
Oh, my mother. My mother has a big influence, a big part of who I am today, and my father. You know, they really influenced me. Well, my mother raised me as a confident individual. She didn't want me to be looking like everybody else, so she used to tell me, I don't want you wearing those sneakers. But I couldn't understand what she meant. I just wanted to fit in with the crowd. So she taught me individualism at an early age. She taught me confidence at an early age, and be yourself, be your own individual. My mother was academics. She's academia. So she used to have me reading, reading certain books, doing reports. Like I had homework to do at home. Forget school. Like, my mother was real self-conscious. She reminded me of Tupac moms. She was very into, Black Power, stuff like that at an early age. So she instilled a lot of things in me. Be proud to be black and things of that nature. She actually do remind me of Tupac moms, though.
Interesting. Where do you rap? Like, if people say where you from, like, where do you rap? What part of New York do you rap? I know you're born in New York.
Yeah, I rap 3 sections of Brooklyn: Brownsville, East New York, and Red Hook. Those are the 3 sections that shaped me into who I am today. So those 3 sections, I can't tell you in Flatbush. Yeah, those 4 sections right there.
All right. So you went through your setbacks while growing up. How did you overcome all of that to now have sort of like a sane mind to move forward?
I think the prison. I think the box. I have to give credit to the solitary, because without the solitary, I wouldn't have fear. Solitary fear made me instill fear in me of claustrophobia. I don't ever want to be locked in again.
Do you think you deserve it?
What?
Being locked up?
Nah.
In general?
Well, for the crimes I committed, yeah. But
do you think it was harsh? Although you've committed that crime, but do you think it was any harsh at all? But or it was fair that you committed that crime and you should be locked up?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I think the 4 years was needed. God did that, so I can't say the system. I think God knew 4 years was going to take for me to get where He wanted me to be, because I was engulfed into the blood culture. I was blood, like dying. You couldn't get me out of being a blood, bro. You couldn't get me out of that. So He knew it was going to take 4 years. So I couldn't blame it on any, because I added a lot of that 4 years to myself, because I was getting caught with gang-related material. I woke up one day and God was right in my ear. He was like, and I had 2 weeks to get out the box after serving 2 years. He woke me up and I was like, out of nowhere, he was like, yo, wake up, get the gang-related material out of here, flushed it down the toilet.
How did you know it was God?
I have no idea. Like, because I don't know if you ever experienced it, but it's like a something that just clicks in your head. Like, it's an intuition, I don't know. I mean, you don't actually hear a voice, but you hear some kind of intuition say, get up. And it said, get up, get the gang-related material out. And
you heard that voice.
I heard that. It was like, get up. So I lifted my mattress and I just was writing these codes, and I was looking at them, and I was like 200 deeps. I got, these are the bulls. I was like, yo, I just got these codes. So now I have to memorize the codes and give them to the other people in my set. So I'm like attached to the codes like they are part of who I am. So instead of flushing them, I said, you know what? I'm going to put them in my mail. They ain't going to come. I swear to God, 15 minutes later, the police knocked on my door. Russell, step out, cell search. I was like, oh, man, they're going to find the codes. And they went right to my mail. Right to my mail. They never checked my mail before. They went right in my box of mail, went through every mail, took it out, find the gun codes, put it in his, he put the yellow, because you have these yellow notepads in there, so I seen him put the yellow note in his top pocket, and he came to put me back in my cell, and I seen the codes, and I asked him, I said, Riley, I remember it was a CO named Riley. I said, Riley, yo, please, man, I've been in here 2 years, I'm getting ready to get out in 11 days. He looked at me dead in my eyes, and he said, please, do not ask me not to do my job, and close the slot. And I knew I was going to get another year for gang-related material. I just did 2 years. So that wasn't even enough. And then I caught another dirty urine while I had the new year, and it accumulated to 4 years.
Wow. So I haven't been there. I don't even know what it's like.
You don't want to know.
But while in the solitary confinement, do you connect with other people? Do you meet other people? Like, do you get a break to go eat? Like, how?
Yeah, you get a break. You don't get a break out of that cell. You stay in that cell 24 hours. Like the S block, I tell you, the back of your cell open up, so it's not like you really go anywhere. Southport, at least you get to walk to a yard. But it's primitive over there, meaning you're going to have to be exposed to people throwing feces on you, human piss. It's very primitive.
Why would they be doing that, though?
I'm going to tell you, to put you in the mind, solitary confinement turns people into madmen. Madmen. And you like, you could hear them yelling, throwing human feces. When they, in Southport, and people can tell you this, they threw shit on a nun. So, if you want primitive, that's the place to be. And there's no way, I mean, it's going to be crazy in there. Very primitive. So, I got my stuff through reading, spirituality, writing, reading, and exercise. That's how you get through the box.
So, who would you say while you were in there has been few of your, or who are some of your inspiration, or who are some of the people did you look up to? What kind of books were you reading? What was going through your mind?
I read books on Muhammad Ali was one of my biggest inspirations. Quincy Jones was one of my biggest inspirations. I don't know about anything after Quincy's, but he had this one book, and I was reading a lot of biographies. So I couldn't really read any fictional knowledge, because once you start getting into a spiritual thing, your spirit begins to reject certain information. So if it was a nurturing to my spirit and helped me grow, I was rejecting it. Anything fiction, so it had to be something like a spiritual, self-help books, anything like that, spiritual books, and it just helped me grow. So I read a lot of biographies that helped me transition into adulthood. So Muhammad Ali was an inspiration because of what he stood for. Muhammad Ali actually was the biggest influence on me because he gave away everything just for what he believed in. And at that time, people wasn't doing that. So I respect him. Maya Angelou was a big influence on me. She helped me get Sister Soldier, helped me get through a lot. Just different authors I was reading while I was there.
What do you think you've missed while you were in prison? What do you think you have missed in society and now catching up on?
Well, being a dad to my oldest daughters, I miss that. I miss not being killed. I became a better dad for my youngest three because I had them when I came from prison. So the first two, I didn't do a good job because I was a thug. I was in the streets. And I wasn't a dad. So I miss being a dad at a young age.
So now you're a community, what is
a community activist.
A community activist. You reach out to the youth. You help them when they come out of prison. How about the ones that are yet to go to prison?
Oh, that's intervention. That's before they get there. So they have programs such as ATI. If they're young and they're catching cases of delinquency, then you have programs in the district attorney's office that would sign them up for a program, and they would have to see me. And I would incorporate certain things into a curriculum to put it in a workshop to help them, because the youth they don't have positive role models in their life right now. As you can see what's going on, the role models are probably the rappers, the music industry, and that's why it's imperative that El Javon come out, because he's not talking what these young rappers are talking. He's talking growth, development, find who you are as an individual, transition, and that's why I connected to him so much.
So with the bunch of other people that are in prison, how much do you think hip hop has influenced their or the hip hop culture has helped in putting them in prison? Would you say any at all?
I think it's a large majority. Rap, hip hop music it's kind of a detriment to the youth, I think, because of what they saying. For instance, this new guy, the Future, I hate to put him on blast, but this mask off and Percocets, I'm on Percocets and stuff like that. So, and I don't see anybody preaching anything positive to the youth aside from J. Cole and maybe Kendrick Lamar. Aside from that, everybody's preaching detrimental things to the youth, like take Xanax, take Percocets, let's mess with these thoughts right here. It's just disgusting right now. It's no rich food nurturing things.
What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Oh, I'm from the 80s, man. So I grew up listening to KRS-One, the conscious stuff, Tribe Called Quest, even EPMD, even the early stuff like the NWA gangster stuff. But I grew up early in the hip hop. I was listening to a lot of conscious rap, De La Soul, things like that.
That's what's up. So what do you do when you're not working or outreaching to the youth? Like, what do you do on your leisure time?
Leisure time, most of the time I'm probably with either my kids, or I'm working with with El Javon, doing some, publishing books, networking, going to different events, setting up meetings, trying to market and brand, just helping get the AMI brand out there, because we are a digital marketing media company, and we trying to bring digital the digital state to a lot of the youth. You know, a lot of the younger generation, because we in the millennial stage where a lot of young people, conscious people, are trying to make an impact, and that's what I like. These millennials out here, we kind of in a good generation and a bad generation at the same time. The good thing about the millennials are they are very aware and they tech savvy, and they know about this new trend and stuff that's happening. The bad thing about it is that some of them are just lazy and don't want to, you know, put forth the effort of adding work to themselves and putting things in a community that can help give everybody a better quality of life.
Okay, so you're currently, I believe, you know, having lost 20 years of your life, you're still playing to catch up. But what are some of the other aspirations that you're working on, look forward to accomplishing?
I look forward to eventually my book coming out one day. It's going to be published by AMI, our company. I look forward to our Season of Concrete project. I'm really passionate and adamant about that. It's been 3 years in production, so I think I'm really excited about that launching off. That's one of my main focuses right now.
Okay, so this is the part where we take a little break and do something fun.
Okay.
All right, trivial questions. Okay, so what are the 3 primary colors?
Red. Black. Is black a color?
Nope.
Red, blue, and white.
Nope.
Green.
So it's red, yellow, and blue.
Okay, I'll go off one.
Almost. All right. So the average American does this 13 times a day.
The average American does this 13 times a day.
And you did few while we're sitting here.
Blow your nose?
Did you blow your nose?
Yeah. Curse?
Nope. Curse? Could be, but no. One more try.
13 something. Yeah, average person. Average American or person?
Person. Average person.
13 something. Yeah.
Laugh.
Okay. You gotta laugh more often.
All right. So, what is the most or the strongest muscle in the human body?
The strongest muscle in the human body, the brain.
Nope.
The strongest muscle in the human body, the heart.
Nope. One more try.
I don't want to say that muscle.
Just say it.
Not a love muscle.
What?
The penis?
Nope.
Okay.
It's the tongue. It's the tongue.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Pound for pound.
Yeah. How long has it taken for the Bible to be written, all come together? The Tanakh or the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament all come together. How long?
I have no idea. I wouldn't even begin to guess. 200 years?
Nope.
Thousands of years?
It's in the thousands.
1,500, 1,200 years?
1,600. 1,600. Okay. Let's see. I'll give you probably one of the most easiest ones. Let's see. Can you name any palindromes? That means a word that, regardless of how you spell it, it says the same thing.
Wow, probably could, but now you got me thinking. Read?
Did you say read?
Yeah.
Nope.
No matter how you spell it, it says the same thing.
Yeah. I'll give you one.
What?
Mom. M-O-M.
Yeah.
So regardless of how you spell it,
It says the same thing.
yeah. If you spell it on the reverse,
I don't know, because I'm start thinking and I don't know.
Who gonna think?
Well,
We got a lot of time.
mom is one. I don't know, man.
Okay, another one is noon.
Okay. Yeah, so you have to have me thinking too much.
Yeah.
Give me another one.
Civic.
How civic?
C.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Civic.
Yeah, civic.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. All right. What is the common word that changes changes pronunciation when you change its first letter to capital?
Oh my God, man. You trying to make somebody think. It changes when you change the letter to a capital.
Yeah, you change just that first letter to capital. That word, the pronunciation change. It changes. That'll be your last question.
You got me. I can't think.
No. Polish.
I would have never got that.
Polish.
Oh, yeah.
Polish.
I didn't know that.
So
You taught me something.
So we use the time all the time. I just said time twice. That's
a double.
mean that
the double
we use
negative.
the time all the time. Now, but the question is, what does AM mean and what does PM mean? When we say I'll see you in the AM,
AM means before 12,
that is true.
and PM means after.
That is true, but it's actually abbreviation of a specific language.
Okay.
And what it means.
AM means automated something.
Are you making that up?
AM, PM means, all right, so AM would be in the morning. But why would they have an A? What word is good for A?
Okay, I'll tell you. Antemeridian
Okay.
and post-meridian.
Okay.
This is Latin.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Name 3 countries that's without the letter A. That should be fun.
Without the letter A?
Yes, 3 countries without the letter A in them.
Egypt.
That's good.
Is that considered a country?
Yes.
Chile.
Chile. Okay, that's good. That's good. One more.
London.
London is not a country.
Well,
that's a city.
Europe.
Europe is not a country. That's a continent.
It's a continent.
Almost there. Without the letter A.
Puerto Rico.
Should we consider no? Puerto Rico is not a country. That's
it's
part of the
United States.
Yeah.
Wow, I keep thinking about every country.
You got 2.
Wow, hold on.
You got 2. You said some of the cities of a country that actually qualify.
Okay. What did I say? Britain.
So Britain will be one.
Yeah, Britain.
Yeah. So rename all the 3.
I said Chile, Britain, and what's the third one? I forgot. What else I said?
I don't remember.
I said Chile.
Then we still at 2 then.
Nah, I said 3, but we recorded it. You got me sipping red wine, forgetting stuff.
Okay.
We know Britain is an A.
What?
Oh yeah, Britain does have it.
Oh yeah.
United Kingdom.
United Kingdom. That's what you're supposed to say. So let's actually take
So
that
UK,
out.
the UK.
The UK. Who else? So okay. So what? Chile.
United Kingdom, and what I said, one of them Asian countries. What did I just say?
You said Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt.
Egypt. Okay.
United Kingdom and Chile.
And Chile. Okay, great. Well, I'll give you a high 5 for that one.
There you go.
All right. So gentrification. What does it mean to you, and how has it affected you?
Gentrification means that actually they get rid of a certain group of people that they feel are not productive enough to sustain an establishment that keeps the rent going up. So they would like to put a certain group of people which they feel are a working class group of people that they feel could afford the rent. So if you move a certain group of people into a certain community and move another group out, that is a form of gentrification.
How has that affected you? Do you think that's a positive thing or a negative thing?
I think it has pluses and negatives.
Okay.
The pluses that it diverses the community. Like this is the first time I've ever seen a lot of white people walking in Bed-Stuy. So its diversity is good and the business is good because it brings a lot of, and that's sad to say that it brings a lot of businesses. The negative part is that without them, we couldn't get fresh produce in the community. So that's the negative part. It's like they feel like a certain class of people, the diaspora is that this class is worth more than this class. And that is terrible. And it makes you look at people in a certain way. It makes you say, oh, I can't get certain things in my community only when, you know, a certain class of people come to the community. And I'm not going to say white people because I don't want to put it on color. I want to put it on status, social class.
So what are some of the things that you see in a community with or without gentrification?
Well, I see fresh food, fresh produce with gentrification. Without it, I see bad service. You can't get good vegetables and fruits. You can't get good prices on food. The things that are available to you in I would say, an African American community aren't the same thing that's available to, like say, a Caucasian community, or I would say a liberal community or something like that. They don't have the same things available, and based on what you could afford. So if they think that a certain group of people could only afford this to eat, then that's all they're going to have there, like a Chinese restaurant or a local chicken spot. Those are the things that are in that community. But when gentrification occurs, then they put healthy things in the neighborhood, like wrap sandwiches, you know, stuff like that.
Have you ever been to Harlem?
Yes.
What do you remember or know about Harlem?
Harlem went through a couple of different stages. Harlem went through a Renaissance stage. Harlem went through a black exploitation stage where it was nothing but drugs in there, abandoned buildings, drug dealers, prostitution, and then it had a resurgence. Then it started having a lot of people that were doing things that were fruitful and activists and things that are involved with community, and you know, people were just really into consciousness and black consciousness and black power and restoring the community. So it went through a couple of stages.
What does it mean to be black in America?
Wow. Target, bullseye on your back, being conscious, being aware of, it means you have to observe all your situations, your circumstance. You have to think way past than a normal person has to think. So if you're confronted with a situation with the police officer, he may be stopping you for an infraction. That process is different from a white individual. It's a different process. Like you have to really fear your life when you're getting pulled over by the police. And you could be an authority figure. There were so many times I was pulled over and I was an authority figure. I had a shield at one time when I was working for the district attorney's office. So just being pulled over, you're like, okay, am I going to die? If I reach the wrong way, will I die? And that's sad to think, because there's so many times when I see with my own eyes, and social media has allowed us to capture this stuff, police officers are abusing their authority. And I tell you one thing, this is what reminds me of slavery so much, is that police officers have replaced slave masters. So these are the slave masters. And if you confront a slave master, the law goes out the window. It's not even law after that. It's that you're not obeying me right now. I told you to give me a fucking license. And if he questions that, then you could be within everything of the law. But if you challenge a police officer, whether right or wrong, just because you challenge them, that's your guilt right there.
Is this only a black issue?
Yes. I would say primarily, but I say police have become very narcissistic, very self-absorbed, and very, what's a good word to use for them? Abusive of authority. So if I challenge you and I'm right, then your ego is in the way. And you're not going to let me mess with your ego. So you're going to let it be known, and you're going to do what you need to do, whether, shock me with some kind of stun gun or something.
So are we talking about just Caucasian or Asian or other race police officers, or are we talking about even black officers?
Even black officers got indoctrinated. And that's sad. Black officers have got indoctrinated. And the black officers is probably the worst one, because they battle with discrimination in the department. And what they do, they take that reverse discrimination against them and inflict it on us, the people that look like you. So they battle with competitive things in the department, not moving up in rank or whatever because of their color, but then they will side with a white officer and whip your ass. Right there in the street. Whip your ass, man.
What are some of the experiences you've had, racial encounter wise? What are some of the things that you have gone through and can actually talk about?
In prison or in the street?
No, on the street or in prison.
Well, in prison, the first time I heard it was called a nigger, or the first time I heard officers use the word nigger loosely, I was in Elmira, and I used to work in the hallway by the kitchen, and we used to have to sweep and mop. So one day I came to work, and the police officer asked me, "Hey, where's the other nigga at?" I looked at him; he was using the word so loosely, like he wasn't even saying nigga. But I was like, "What?" And I looked at him in shock, and he didn't even care. He just said, "The big nigga." And I looked at him again. He's like, "Oh, you know what I mean," and he just left. And I was like, "Wow." So they're just using the term nigger loosely up there.
How about outside of prison? Any sort of racial encounters?
Yeah, I had a few with the police, but I wouldn't say that. Would you consider that to be racial?
Well, you tell me.
It's hard to say, because you got black police officers inflicting the same type of pain.
So why do you think black people feel victimized?
Because we target it. We target it if you're innocent. You could be walking down the street based on how you look and the clothing you're wearing. And if you fit a stereotype, then you're a victim. So you're targeted.
But it also seems as though black people have, or African Americans have, some sort of resentment, although slavery has been hundreds of years back. Why do you think that's so?
The resentment from slavery?
Right.
Slavery is fresh, man. It's still new. What is it, 400 years old? That's like a little bit of time to come from that. And to be where we at now, we're not too far removed from slavery. So some of the things are still prevalent. Like some of the things are still in existence today, as far as slavery is concerned. And it's just masked in a different way. It's just masked up in a different way. But
so you say we still have a modern day slavery?
Yes, we do. Well, what's that? The 13th Amendment? The 13th Amendment says you have a right to enslave somebody if they commit a crime. So you don't even have the constitutional rights when you're in prison.
Do you think that in any way the other race are afraid of black people?
Yeah.
How so?
I don't know. Some people are afraid of us because they may have had crimes committed against them from people of color, and that might have stained them or left an impression of black people, all black people. It's stigmatizing. So if you thinking that one black person does this, then you forget all black people act the same way, when it's not true.
So in our society, women are always fighting because they're not treated equally. Why do you think we, in 2017, 2018, we still not treating women as equal?
I couldn't even answer that question, because I'm not even in a position to even answer that, because I'm not in a position to say any woman is being treated unequally or equally, because I'm still experiencing the same things. So I'm not an authoritative figure to say, okay, let's give women equal rights. But I tell you what, though, and this is not to cause any controversy, a woman's movement have morphed into this gay movement thing. So this woman's feminist movement is now the gay pride movement. So it's kind of merged together. So that's where we at right there.
So do you believe in gender roles?
I believe an individual should be who he is, regardless of anything. Like,
so let's say you take a woman out. Do you believe that the woman should pay or the man should pay?
I believe the man should pay. Customary, how I was brought up, I think the things I was indoctrinated with. But at a certain point, I think if you had a relationship with him, I think it should be a team. If the woman wants to offer to pay, I don't have a problem with letting her pay the bill.
So basically, answering that question means that you do believe in gender roles. Every gender has a role.
Yeah, I do. Because if you go outside of that, then we'd be confused. It'd be all mixed up and nobody would know what to do, how to lead, or what to expect from each other. Well, today it's changed though. Like women don't really expect that, like with all this equal thing. So it's hard to balance out being a gentleman when the woman wants to be equal to. So that's where the discrepancies and disparities come from.
So we push for rights. We push for freedom. And, first, some of the rights we push for is human rights in terms of LGBTQ or just the right to be able to be free.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on LGBTQ rights and how has it affected you?
That hasn't affected me at all.
Are you gay?
No, I'm not gay.
Are you curious?
No.
Are you straight?
I'm straight. Heterosexual.
Tri-curious?
No.
Nothing. Do you have anything against that community?
Nope.
Do you have any thoughts whatsoever?
My oldest two daughters are gay. My oldest brother died. He was gay. Uncles gay. So I don't have any. My thoughts of. I love people that are gay because I think you should have a right, especially the gay couples that are together. I think they should have a right, marriage rights. Like if one of them were to die, I think as a partner you should be able to collect the benefits for your life partner. So I think that I agree with, but I don't have a problem with the LGBT community. I mean, I'm cool.
Cool. So now, in terms of freedom, what does freedom mean to you?
Liberation, man. Liberation. Freedom to me is just liberating, just ability to do and think with a free mind, and be able to execute your dreams and make them come to fruition. But I tell you, the thing about the American dream is non-existent. The American dream is entrepreneurship. It's not going to school, get a degree, get a wife, buy a house. That's not the American dream. The American dream is independence. Money, being self-made, that's really the American dream.
Are you free?
Yes, I'm totally free.
How?
I'm free of bondage. I'm free of, not all my vices, but I'm free of bondage, man. I'm a free thinker. I'm free of anything satanic.
So, can you do anything you want?
Yeah.
As a free man?
Yes.
So how then would you describe the situation where we have laws abiding us not to do certain things?
Well, it's a universal law. There are universal laws that I think we to abide by just to be able to have a sense of normalcy and structure in the community. There has to be universal laws, like there has to be things, no crimes committed against kids, no sodomy, no pedophilia, things like that, and crime. Like you have to have some law, universal law. How far do you think we can push freedom? All right,
in America, because this is something, or even in the world, this is something we fight for, and we want to have it all. People even want to marry their dogs.
There's a flip side to that. There's a flip side to being totally free, because then you have some people that are very abusive towards that. Like they will try to commit crimes against you. Like this new state with this ISIS thing. So it has to be some sort of balance in between security and freedom, because you never know what you could be up against. Like the same things that we want protecting us is the same rights that they can take away. So it's a double-edged sword. So if you say, I want the right to be able to protest and to do this and do that, but then you have people under that same umbrella planting bombs or suicide bombers and planning like bombs to hurt people. So then they want people to, you gotta watch these people, you gotta listen to people. So your freedom of talking on the phone can be, jeopardized based on what others are doing. So it's kind of like that now.
So the terrorists or
freedom fighters, some call them.
They call themselves freedom fighters. Why do you think this continues to happen in terms of inflicting pain on either America or other countries?
Because America has the ability to affect other nations with their beliefs, whether you know it or not. It's like 6 degrees separation. The things and principles that America preach has other cultures wanting to come here and not be oppressed in their country or their community. So it's a lot of things that's going on culturally, like maybe in Africa, Iraq, or some of these Middle Eastern countries that will oppress a certain party, like oppress a certain gender. Like a lot of women's rights are not considered in a Muslim nation. A lot of women are oppressed. Maybe in China, you can't even listen to certain pop tunes in China without being afflicted with some kind of punishment. So some people want to come from under that reign and come to America where they have the freedom to listen to what they want. So that's basically what they sell in America. You could come to America and you can have the freedom to do what you want. So it's like a gift and a curse. America is so free they can actually damage you.
What is important to you politically? Like with the current situation we're in, Donald Trump being our president, what is important to you? What are your thoughts?
I don't really like politics, but politics is not because it's full of lies to me. And I don't think I could ever be involved with politics because at some point you're going to have to tell a lie to the people. And I don't want to be that person for status or money for nothing. I don't want to ever have to lie to somebody for anything that have to do with status. So I don't really like politics. I think it's a bunch of BS. And I don't serve a particular party because Democrats to me are no different than a Republican, if you ask me.
Are you in any relationship right now?
No, I'm struggling with that. I'm looking for a wife, but I'm so picky, man.
Wait, how are you struggling with that?
Yo, I tell you, the prison time kind of affected me. Because I'm a type of person that I like to search for the truth a lot. And when I do that, I kind of get quiet because I don't like to talk to people, but I like to go on my own journeys. And I think relationships with not the right person can interrupt that process of when I'm trying to advance in life because it's a constant evolution in life. So you constantly evolving. So if I don't find a like-minded person that's really trying to evolve, not saying with me, but evolve and let me have the freedom to be able to evolve, and that's where I'm finding I'm having difficulty.
Have you been in any relationship?
Yes, I was with my kid's mother. So when I came home, I was involved with a woman initially coming out of prison, and we had 3 kids together. But that turned out to be a volatile situation.
So, what are some of the lessons you would say that you learned from a relationship?
Wow. I learned you have to examine yourself and who you are as an individual before you can even begin to approach a relationship with an individual, because relationships are so difficult because people could mature in phases, man. Like what could be priority to somebody early in a relationship could change in 5 years. So that merger is a difficult situation. So they say, I know that they say, it should be God-centered and it should be this and it should be that. But I don't think I have the temperament for certain things. Like I can't deal with certain things. A person that's not a logical thinker and more so thinks emotionally, I think I have a difficult time with that.
What's the longest relationship you've been in?
8 years?
8 years.
Yeah.
So within those 8 years, what are 3 things that you will say that are the most important to you in a relationship?
Trust, communication, and respect.
Okay. Now, what attracts you to a woman?
Independence, number one. Beauty. I do love a fine female. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I tried to date somebody that wasn't attractive. You know,
physically.
Yeah. So people tell you, yo, stop looking for the beauty and all that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it one time, right? So one particular time I tried it, and there was no passion there because I couldn't look at the person like, damn, I can't wait to get a home or something like that. So that didn't work. So physical, it has to be there. Intelligence has to be there. And you have to be confident. So I'll give you an example. When I was in school doing my bachelor's, this one particular woman, I was dating her. So I had 2 jobs at the time, working for the DA's office and working for the Barclays Center. Matter of fact, 3 jobs. I used to work for the DA's office, the Barclays Center, and I used to work at a residential facility for kids. And go to school 3 nights a week. So some days I had to do a paper, but she would call me and I wouldn't pick up the phone and entertain the conversation because I know she wanted to have a long conversation while I had to have a paper in. So I had to terminate the relationship because she said, "You're not in school? What black men go to school?" So I was like, "What? I can't deal with that insecurity. If you can't trust me and I'm telling you that I'm in school, I'm doing papers, and you have to understand what that entails and what the caseload is and what kind of stress I'm going to be under, then you will understand." So I needed somebody that's going to be able to understand, not, take away from me because I'm trying to progress in life.
That's kind of interesting. What black man goes to school?
She was right, though, because when I went to school, the ratio was astronomical. So if it's a class of 30, there may have been 27 women, 3 men. And it's every class, man. Every class. Men, 2 or 3 men in the class every semester, man.
Wow. So, how important is sex to you in your relationship, and how much or how often do you indulge?
Yo, sex is very important in a relationship to me. I would end a relationship over that. But out of a relationship, I've learned to be like, I'm a boxer, man, so I could, I'm good with masturbation, to be honest with you.
So
I don't want to attach myself to a woman if I don't love her like that. And then have that connection to the woman that she feels that you use her for her body. And so I'm cool with that. But it's important in a relationship. Like, really.
How
often?
How often?
If it's good, every day.
Well, I was here every day, but how
now,
often every day?
I don't want to get tired of it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if you keep doing it, then you're going to get tired. I think a man has to spread it out a little bit because it becomes like monotonous.
Okay.
And that's the biggest thing for men is monotony that went to prison because of the monotony. If you get caught in a relationship that's monotonized, then it's not going to last for a person that came out of prison because it's going to remind him of those long days in prison, man.
Interesting. So, have you been in a situation where you felt that, the woman wants more of you sexually than you want?
Yeah, of course. I think everybody had a situation like that. Had a female that was really sexually charged and driven, and she wanted it all the time. But I can't do it all the time. Like, come on, sweetie. Like, spread your blows out a little bit.
Okay,
you making me. I think a man get tired of a woman so quick like that. Like, that's why we always chasing. Like, that's why men get into a new thing chase. Like a new thrill of the chase and a new. Maybe it's the texture of the vagina that you get so used to you can't even get a thrill off it anymore.
Do you think there's all vaginas are the same, or
no? They definitely not the same. Not the same, bro.
Well,
they have some do some tricks that others can't do.
Okay.
There's some tricks that others can't do, bro.
Okay.
So that's just tell you right there.
How do you please your woman?
Any way she wants.
So she tells you what she wants.
No. I do that because it's my job to figure out her body. It's my job to figure out what her spot's at. I don't want her directing me. Like, I'm not a student. I'm a master at this.
You're a master, okay.
I'm a professor.
What's the craziest thing you've done?
Sexually?
Yes.
Threesome, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the craziest place you've done? You've indulged in sex
Roofs,
at?
movies, cars, trains, office buildings, wherever it pops at, wherever you get the feeling, parks, carousels,
All right. So
beaches in Jamaica.
so you mentioned that sometimes you may have to indulge into masturbation instead of like.
That's cool.
How even while in the relationship or outside?
Yeah, hell yeah. I even did it while she was in the bed with me.
Okay, so when you're not in a relationship, how do you get your sex?
That's hard because I don't know. Like, well, you probably have like some girl you probably dating, and it's sad. Like, if y'all get really thirsty and lonely, I'll probably, call up an old fling. Somebody I didn't have sex with.
Netflix and chills.
Yeah. Netflix and chill. You know that text. Yeah, you want to come over for a movie? Fire Stick, Netflix, or whatever we got. Netflix and chill. Know what's going down.
So, in your past relationship, what would you say that you can own and say, you know what, my faults. These are my responsibilities, and this is why it didn't work.
I think I'm a bit much, man. I'm a Capricorn, so it's hard to deal with me. My last relationship with my kid's mother, I think I tried to stay, so I tried to go to couples therapy with her, but I couldn't deal with her temperament because she was kind of aggressive. Like, she wouldn't let you slip up. She was the type that she would check your phone. It was like constantly with her, and I stopped wanting to come home. So she kind of instilled the fear in me from relationships. Yo, she traumatized me, man. I tell you, bro. Like, she used to really get me at my weakest point, wake me up my sleep when I'm tired, and interrogate me like a damn homicide detective, like I was on First 48 or something.
Wow. So, you've lived your life. You're still living it. But if you're to drop dead today, what would you want to be remembered as?
As a good dad. As a good dad and a person that tries to do better. Like, yeah, that changed and impacted people's lives. Like, I want people to make my eulogy to like a good father.
Okay. Well, if you could go back, what would be some of the most influential moments of your life?
The most influential moments in my life. I had a couple. I'd say the cancer surviving. It was influential because I thought I was going to die.
How did you figure that you had cancer?
Yo, I went to the doctor and I had this knot in my chest.
This was after you came back from prison?
Yeah, this is when I'm home. So I had it felt like a half a golf ball. So I kept feeling it, but it didn't hurt. So I went to my doctor and I was like, yo, what's this right here? I said, you feel this? He felt it and he was like, it's probably fat. And right at that time, I was kind of overweight. So I brushed it off. Oh, it's fat. So I was kind of elated and relieved that he said that. So I was getting ready to turn 48, I think. And I was, you turn 50, you want to check your organs out, colonoscopy done and all that. So I went to get the colonoscopy done and the MRI found the cancer. So they was doing just my midsection, but the MRI went up above my chest. So they was like, yeah, you good down here, but we seen the mass on your chest. I was like, yeah, my doctor said it was fat. They was like, fat? Man, we got to check that out. It's a knot. It's wrapped around your third rib cage. I was like, what? They was like, we're going to see what it is. So they went and did everything. So I didn't get a biopsy because I was choking that day on something. They woke me up, said, you know what? We just going to go in and get it out. We're not going to do the biopsy. We're going to find out what it is after we extract it. So my doctor told me, he made me think that it was going to be a speedy recovery. He said, you'll be out the bed in 3 days. But that 3 days turned into like 3 or 4 months of recovery because they had to collapse my lungs with it. So even though I got stabbed in my lungs twice, 2 collapsed lungs, this is my 3rd collapsed lung with that taking out the extraction of that cancer that was wrapped around my rib cage. So when they cut the rib out, they took the cancer with it and it was actually malignant. So I was like, wow. He said, you know what? You're lucky. He said 1 in 700,000 people get this. And he said, you lucky it wasn't aggressive. It didn't spread. It stayed there for basically 2 years. And I was like, wow. But I thought I was going to die before the surgery. So I was in my room for 2 or 3 months in the darkness. My mother had to come get me out the room. Because at that point, nobody knew this. Not even the people I was dealing with in my company and my algebra. Nobody knew that. I was just in my room in the darkness. My mother had to come in the room and say, son, she brought me to a sense of normalcy. She calmed me down because she called me once. She said, what's the matter with you? I was like, Mom, I feel like I'm going to die. like I'm ready to give up. She's like, son, don't even be worried about it because we all going to our graves. And I was like, you know what, you're right. We all rushing to the grave. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something you can't change. Death and being black, I can't change them two things. So when it comes, that's why I'm so adamant about what I do now, because I want to see the impact I leave for people when I'm gone. That's what's most important. And that's what I tell El Javon and everybody I'm around. I'm like, yo, bro, it don't matter what you do now. It's the impact you leave when you're gone, your legacy. That's why I came up with the phrase, sacrifice for your legacy. Because, man, you could be gone tomorrow, man. Look what happened to Prodigy, man. 42 years old. Gone, bro. Gone.
How old are you now?
I'll be 50 in a couple months.
Okay. So your legacy, again, will be what? Exactly. If, you did say that, being a father, but...
My legacy would be a servitude. My legacy is going to be a servant of God.
Okay.
Like, I gotta help people because I became aware. I became aware, and I know it's a lot of ignorance out here. That's why I kind of clamped into this project that we got, Season of Concrete, because it's pure awareness. It's pure nurturing fruit. It's like a water well in the middle of a starving, deserted community. And it's the only water well there. That's what Season of Concrete represent. Like that water well in the middle of Brownsville. If it's just desert, it's a desert, that's going to be the well, man, that people going to be fiending to get to.
Are you happy where you are right now?
Yeah, I'm very happy, man.
What is happiness to you?
My happiness is being content with yourself. I'm content with myself. It's a state of mind. So my state of mind is good.
Where do you think your life is headed?
God willing, is headed to success of if this project jumps off, we be able to spread our tentacles out and to touch the masses.
Are you in doubt of the project you're working on? You said if
Nah, let me reflate it. It's going to jump off. Like, I wouldn't even be involved in it if it wasn't going to jump off. It's going to jump off. Like, when it jumps off, not if.
Okay. Do you have any regrets in your life? Or if you could go back, what would you change?
I hate to say this because nothing. You know why? Because you have to learn to live with regrets. And you can't say if I would have did this right, if I would have did that right, if this would have happened, if the first baseman would have stood here, he would have got him out there to World Series. I don't say that because it's not reality. It's not reality.
So what would you say is the most experience that has taught you so much about life?
I think being in social services, like being able to give back and being aware of the people that's coming to you and being aware to recognize certain issues that they may have and how to provide them with a service.
Okay. So
my awareness level is at a different height right now. Like I recognize behavior patterns.
Okay. So what's like the biggest risk you have taken in your life?
The biggest risk? No risk, no reward. I put my life at risk before. I would say when I was involved with a street gang, like being in those prisons like Auburn, Clinton, and having to come out in the yard knowing that you're going to get stabbed, that was a risk.
Okay.
Your life.
What about the biggest mistake or biggest failure?
Becoming blood.
Okay.
That was the biggest mistake. Becoming a gangbanger.
So, as far as what you're doing with your life right now, where you're going, and how you're going, what is something that you would say that is sort of like intimidates you, or that you're fearful of?
Oh man, I'm fearful of myself when it comes to being involved with like police officers. Like I'm fearful of like so much oppression towards my people that everybody want to explode. Like that's what I'm fearful of. Like people are going to snap one day, and I'm fearful of that. Like because you can see the police officers, they're not letting up. They still doing the same atrocities against people they did in slavery, and now they doing it against people not of color too. Like they getting white people like that. I seen them do it to white people too. So I don't. But it just seemed like I'm fearful of, any policing contact. Like, I'm fearful of that.
What gets you out of bed?
Wanting to be engaged with people every day because of the box time. Because when I was in the box, I couldn't see people, so I wanted to be around people. So I wanted to, every morning I get up, I want to see the sunshine every day. Mm-hmm. Because when I was in Attica, it was 2 years I didn't see sun. So my pigmentation changed. I got light.
If you had the power to change anything about society, one thing about society, what would it be?
Ignorance. The people that don't know, the unaware, the uninformed, the misinformed. Ignorance. I think that would be something that changes the world.
And in place of ignorance?
Wisdom. Wisdom.
Now, for sort of like the end for a great interview, having a great conversation with you, help our audience to kind of understand from your life, having been to prison for 20 years and now catching up with your family, your daughters, and catching up with, society as a whole. What are 3 things that you will say that you've learned from life and to give back to the youth to kind of better themselves?
Okay. First thing I would say is spirituality. You have to have some kind of, I don't care who you praying to, but make spirituality your main thing. Make that your core. Then I would instill patience in them and being a visionary, being able to see past a year. Like being able to see into your future. So sacrifices. So I need you to be able to say, I'm going to commit to 5 years, 4 years of school, and to get to the next step. So that's what I would incorporate.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.